The ranch sat quiet under a wide New Mexico sky, a lonely spread of weathered fences and tired cattle that mirrored the heart of its owner, Elias Crow, a shy rancher whose words often tangled in his throat long before they ever reached his lips. Elias had inherited the land and the silence together, and both weighed heavy on him. When he placed a small notice in town asking for a cook, he expected someone ordinary, someone temporary, someone who would not look too closely at him. Instead, on a sunlit morning, she arrived. Her name was Ayanna Begay, tall and calm, a Navajo woman whose presence seemed to steady the dust itself. She spoke little at first, her voice low and sure, her eyes observant without being intrusive. Elias noticed how she moved through the kitchen like she already knew it, how the pots and knives obeyed her hands, how the air filled with the warmth of food and something else he couldn't name. Each meal she cooked felt like an answer to a question he had never dared to ask. Over the week, the ranch changed. The house felt alive again. Ayanna rose before dawn, sang softly in a language Elias didn't understand, and left meals wrapped and waiting for him. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, it was with stories of land, balance, and patience. Elias found himself waiting for those moments, his shyness loosening just enough to let him sit at the table longer than necessary. On the 7th evening, after a long day repairing fences, Elias returned to find the house lit differently, candles glowing, the smell of cedar and stew in the air. Ayanna asked him to sit. She spoke then, not of cooking, but of loneliness, of how land remembers those who care for it, and of how people can heal each other if they choose to be brave. She placed a small woven bracelet in his hand, something she had made during the quiet hours. It wasn't magic, but it felt like a promise. In that moment, Elias realized that what she had done was not sudden or loud. She had gently stepped past his walls and reminded him that he was seen. If this story is touching something in you, if you feel the pull of quiet strength and unexpected connection, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss stories that stir the heart and soul. After that night, nothing looked the same to Elias, though everything appeared exactly as before. The ranch was still the ranch, the cattle still wandered, the sky still stretched endlessly, but inside him something had shifted. Ayanna did not change her routine, yet her presence felt deeper, more intentional, as if she had planted a seed and trusted time to do the rest. Elias found himself speaking more, telling her about his parents, about the fear that had kept him alone, about how silence had become easier than risk. Ayanna listened, sometimes nodding, sometimes smiling softly, sometimes sharing her own stories of resilience, of her grandmother's teachings, of strength that does not shout. One evening, a storm rolled in, fierce and sudden, forcing them both indoors as rain drummed on the roof. By lantern light, Ayanna taught Elias how to cook one of her dishes, guiding his hands patiently, laughing when he made mistakes. The laughter surprised him most of all. It felt like crossing a river he'd stood beside his whole life. Later, when the storm passed, they stepped outside together, the earth smelling new and clean. Ayanna told him that what she had done a week ago was simple. She had chosen to care, and in doing so, she had invited him to choose himself. Elias understood then that her something was courage shared, not taken. By the end of the season, the ranch no longer felt like a refuge from life, but a place within it. Whether Ayanna stayed or moved on mattered less than what remained in Elias: confidence, openness, and the knowledge that connection can arrive quietly and change everything. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, stories of gentle love, cultural respect, and inner transformation, make sure to subscribe to the channel and keep supporting meaningful storytelling. Time moved forward, but not in the hurried way Elias had once feared. It moved with intention, like footsteps on familiar soil. Weeks after the storm, the ranch settled into a new rhythm, one shaped not by loneliness, but by shared presence. Elias noticed how he now woke before the alarm, how purpose pulled him from sleep instead of obligation. Ayanna continued her work, yet her role had quietly transformed, from hired help into something unspoken and mutual. She taught him Navajo ways of honoring the land, simple gestures, like offering thanks before meals, listening to the wind before making decisions, and understanding that strength is often silent. Elias, in turn, shared the ranch with her not just as property, but as history, walking her through the fences his father had built, the creek where he had once hidden as a boy to escape his own shyness. One evening, a group of ranch hands gathered for supper, and Elias, without realizing it, spoke confidently, laughed openly, and stood taller than he ever had. He caught Ayanna watching him, pride clear in her eyes, and it struck him that the greatest thing she had done was never about romance or mystery. It was about awakening the man he had buried under fear. Later that night, under a sky heavy with stars, Ayanna told him her time on the ranch would soon end, that her journey required movement. The words hurt, but they didn't break him. Instead, Elias felt gratitude, a deep, steady gratitude for the transformation he now carried. He told her she was welcome to stay, not out of need, but out of choice. Ayanna smiled, explaining that some connections are meant to last forever, even if paths diverge. On her final morning, she left him a bundle of dried herbs and a note reminding him that confidence is not loud, it is rooted. As her truck disappeared down the dirt road, Elias stood firm, not empty-handed, not alone. The ranch breathed with him, alive and hopeful. And as the sun rose, Elias returned to the house, already planning the future, knowing that one quiet week had reshaped his entire life. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the power of gentle change, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because more soulful, transformative stories are on the way, and your support keeps them alive. Months passed after Ayanna's departure, and with each sunrise, Elias felt the steady proof that her influence had not faded with the dust of the road she took. The ranch now carried his footsteps with confidence, not hesitation. He spoke easily with traders in town, negotiated prices without his voice trembling, and even found himself offering help to neighbors instead of avoiding them. Yet in the quiet hours of evening, when the sky burned orange and purple, his thoughts returned to the lessons she had left behind. He practiced them faithfully, pausing before decisions, listening to the land, honoring silence without hiding inside it. One afternoon, a neighboring ranch faced a crisis when a wildfire threatened their cattle. Without overthinking, Elias organized the men, opened his pastures, and worked through the night. When dawn came and the danger passed, he realized something profound. Courage had become his natural state. Later, as he sat alone by the creek, he took out the woven bracelet Ayanna had given him, now worn soft with time. He didn't long for her return in desperation. Instead, he felt ready, for her or for life, or for whatever came next. That evening, a letter arrived, simple and handwritten. Ayanna wrote of her travels, of teaching and learning, and of how some bonds remain alive no matter the distance. She ended by saying she would visit when the land called her back. Elias folded the letter carefully, smiling not with longing but with peace. He understood now that love does not always stay. Sometimes it prepares you, as stars filled the sky. Elias stood on his porch, grounded and whole, grateful for the quiet miracle that had taught him to stand in his own strength. If this chapter resonated with you, if you believe in stories where growth is the true victory, remember to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these meaningful journeys continue.